friends, Brickey here today, breaking down one of the #1 things I've seen in the Disneyland Forward comment section below. I want to break down the myth on why I believe the north and south parking lots will become part of DCA and Disneyland, but they will not become their own theme park. Let's break down why I see this as being something Disney does not want to do by accidentally building the most convoluted theme park ever. Today, we're going to break down why exactly I do not believe that Disneyland Forward will be making a third gate on the western end of Disneyland. I'm talking about everything that's on the other side of Disneyland Drive. To give you an indication where I'm at, I'm standing in the pinch point, which is the #1 reason why I do not believe that everything on the west of me will become a theme park. Behind me is Disneyland Drive. Over here is Downtown Disney, the Disneyland Hotel, and then over on my upper left would be the Pixar Place Hotel. Parking lots on each side, as we saw in the Disneyland Forward concept artwork, where it looked like it's going to be a giant theme park, where eventually this huge parking lot behind me will become an extension of DCA and not a standalone theme park, which looks that way in the concept artwork. And Disney has teased it both ways. Would this be an additional gate, or in this other art, would this be an extension of DCA, and then the parking lot north of me, would that become an extension of Disneyland proper? Today, what I want to do is walk you from this parking lot to the other parking lot and explain to you why making all of this one theme park would be the worst decision that Disney could ever make. And sure, there's probably some creative workarounds that could make it happen, but at what cost and what would have to be subtracted to make this addition work? I think the easiest way to look at this is I'm standing in an expansion of Disney's California Adventure, which will pair very well with the Pixar Place Hotel, giving guests the ability to instantly leave that hotel and go right into the theme park. Made a whole video about it. That's not what we're talking about today, but that video did create a conversation of a lot of people saying, I don't know, I think they'll end up making it all one theme park. And today I thought, great time to break down why that won't work. So simply put, we are talking about all of this space over here on the left. California Adventure taking over this region, and then Disneyland taking over this region. Let me break down to you one of the main reasons why I don't think that it will work. And I have 5 of these. I think each 5 of them will make sense as I break them all down on why this needs to be extensions of the existing park and not its own theme park. So let's pretend for a moment that this doesn't become an extension of DCA, but becomes its own theme park. You're going to take guests from the south side of the new theme park and have them connect with the north side of this theme park. But this is where it gets really tricky, because there are going to be so many other things happening in this tight corridor. So on this available tight pathway here, we're going to have all of the guests go from the south side of the new theme park up to the north side of the new theme park on the other side of the Disneyland Hotel. But also in this exact same space, we're going to have to make way for people that are trying to go from the Disneyland Hotel and the Pixar Place Hotel over to Downtown Disney. So now we have 3 levels of traffic. But let's go up another one, because how are people going to get into this third theme park? The only feasible way to make it happen is from the end of Downtown Disney. So now you have a 4th customer that's trying to come over into this area. So between hotel guests, Downtown Disney guests, guests wanting to get into the new park, and then guests trying to go north and guests trying to go south, we are going to have 5 different guest needs in this one little narrow corridor. So let's break this down logically. 5 different guests connecting in one spot. You can only go over and under so many times before you run out of options. So if Disney did do a Skyway taking hotel guests over the new theme park into Downtown Disney, okay, that solves that problem of hotel guests. But what about general guests that just want to get into Downtown Disney, or the guests that are trying to get into this theme park? With Downtown Disney just being fully redeveloped at its very edge, a lot of people say, why don't you talk about the former ESPN building or the old Rainforest Cafe? Well, I don't talk about it because Disney doesn't talk about it. So let's pretend for a moment that Disney does remove the old ESPN building and even the Rainforest Cafe. If these buildings were to be removed, it still doesn't fix the problem of the five-way connection point. It could give more space to route some guests around, but Disney would have to get very, very creative with overpasses, underpasses, maybe even a tunnel to make all 5 guest experiences work the way they need them to. But also let's talk about an entryway to this third gate, because really the only place that it could logically make sense would be the end of downtown Disney, which would mean that if you parked over at Pixar Pals and Mickey and Friends, you have to still get on the tram, go all the way down to the tram drop off, work your way up downtown Disney to get into this park. But that adds a whole other level of problems, because the grand entryway to this park would probably be somewhere very, very near to this pinch point, because you can't really bring the guest in any further to the north or to the south, because it would conflict with things that already exist there. So the most that you could do, maybe if you took out the ESPN zone, or you took out the old Rainforest Cafe, you would have the grand entryway to this park over in that section. Still would have to take the tram down, walk back up, but you could have those people dumping over there. But that still would have 4 other different guest needs exactly where I'm standing. But when we think about the jigsaw puzzle, that will be the new theme parks coming over into the parking lots. This will not go away. Over on the western end, the Pixar and Mickey and Friends parking garages will still be the major way that people come into the Disneyland Resort when they're coming from the west. So therefore, you have to keep in mind that if everything over there becomes theme park, this will be a no-fly zone. You will have to come in here, take the tram to downtown Disney, where then you make your decisions of where you're gonna go. So walking in this way will be a thing of the past. The hotels will have their own proprietary entrance. You'll come in here, your only option will be the tram. The tram will take you over, which would then mean that any entry point to a new theme park would have to be at the end of downtown Disney, because we're no longer walking over here. There would not be a grand entryway into that third gate right behind me. And could you imagine how you would get to that entryway if you parked over in the new parking lot on the east side of Harbor? So that alone, just the funneling of people from these garages, like the Esplanade is still going to be the central hub of the Disneyland Resort. It'll be there where different decisions are revealed to you. And those decisions, I think, are going to be 2 parks there, not walking all the way down to go to a third park, with just a very weird way of coming and going out of it. Because you would have to, every single night, walk all the way downtown Disney to get on the trams to bring you back to here. Whereas if it's just an extension of the existing parks, you would just cross back over the bridge, work your way out the gate you normally do. It'd be no big deal. You're used to it. It's just like Galaxy's Edge, but a little bit further. So this gets removed in this situation, and we have this be the entryway to this new immersive third park. The hotel guests would probably have access to it. I think that's going to happen regardless if it's an extension of the theme parks or its own gate. These parks will be put here to elevate the experience and the prices of staying in these hotels. So that would work. But what about those hotel guests that want to go into downtown Disney? We still have to find a path for that, or we have to find a path for downtown Disney folks trying to get over into the hotels, or just trying to get to downtown Disney. The Grand Californian currently has a majority of its parking underneath it. Pixar Place has the hotel parking lot garage behind it, and then the Disneyland Hotel has its own parking garage out front of it. So parking for the hotels, I'm not worried about. But making all of this one theme park, I just don't see how it works. And I'm not even talking about not enough attractions to make it work. Like, I do think that with this plot of land, Disney could make a fun third gate. But the problem of getting everybody in, I just don't think that that's worth it. had Disney not just spent all the money and effort redoing this far end of downtown Disney, I would say that it would be an argue for this to become its own gate. But even if the Rainforest Cafe were to be demolished, and right where I'm standing was the grand entryway to this new park, we would still have a problem with how tight it is getting everybody from the north and the south, and then also dealing with hotel guests. So if this were the grand entryway into a third gate, they would have to then make a ramp that would go over the connection point between New Park North and South, okay? So we have now figured out how to get guests just into here, and we figured out how to get hotel guests back and forth, and we have guests going from north and south. It's a lot happening in one condensed spot. I do think that it would be possible, but I don't see the expense and all of the deconstruction and moving everything around. I just don't think that it's worth it, because I believe their goal is more capacity at these parks to truly make it to where you feel like you can't get it all done in one day, to sell more hotel tickets, to sell more theme park tickets, more multi-day tickets. I know there is a discount on the multi-day, but really the idea is to try to get people here as many days as possible, spending as long as possible. And then there's the infrastructure costs. To add on new lands to an existing theme park is way cheaper than to add a whole third park that needs its own set of management, infrastructure. The whole development of that is way more complicated than just saying, check it out, new tunnel, new lands. And then there's what I believe what's going to happen out at the Toy Story parking lot will definitely become a standalone theme park. They're not going to put more shopping already in a struggling shopping area. The future of shopping is doomed at best, and with OC vibes showing up, Orange County, Anaheim does not need another major shopping thoroughfare. That will become a third park, and that makes sense because that is its own thing. It sits in its own footprint, giving Disney a nice, clean palette to build a truly epic theme park. Not an epic universe, but an epic theme park, because Disney does their best work, like every artist, when they have a blank slate. Connecting all of this together, it could be done, but it would be the most convoluted layout for a theme park ever. It would have no central plaza. It would have no flow. It would be surrounded by hotels, because don't forget, when we connect them, we're right next to the hotels. We can hide all of the hotels by putting stuff further out in the parking lot, but we can't hide the hotels when we have guests running right next to them. So therefore, it works against the thematic part of Disney trying to shoehorn it into this very convoluted shape. Whereas if they're going to do a true third park, why not go to Toy Story, where they have a blank canvas to grow an amazing story from? And I also think that doing this piecemeal will give them bigger, better results at a faster pace. What it takes to build an entire theme park, especially a theme park that's being built around 3 different hotels, a main street, a downtown Disney district, like that type of construction is a long-term investment, and then you start to get a return. However, if they can say, hey, check it out, we've now expanded DCA for a new land, and then another new land shows up, they could do it in drops, which brings people back to the resort time and time again. So one summer's offering is something big has been expanded to DCA, and then the next summer or summer after that's big offering is there's now something new that you haven't done yet at Disneyland. It keeps adding and adding, giving them more time to spread out the costs, but also to spread out the storytelling, to see what audiences need, so they don't invest heavily now on a bunch of stuff that might not be super relevant in a decade. But laying out a little bit over the next 20, 30 years gives them the ability to stay relevant and to keep making decisions based on those guests' needs. Pretty much the best analogy I have for that is when you give your kids a bunch of gifts, they kind of find 1 or 2 they get excited about, but other gifts just kind of like, whatever. They're overwhelmed. They've had too much. But when you just give your kid one thing that's special, they cherish and love it. And I think staggering it out like that would be a really great way to do it, where one day the big news is this is going to open up to Disneyland. And maybe that happens after we've already got new DCA further down the path. And I've also heard people theorize that they think Disney is playing the long game and they're eventually going to buy Disneyland Drive. So there will be no worrying about going over or under the road. They'll just acquire it. And to that, I'll say the struggle that has been getting Magic Way, which is really just a block that they wanted to purchase, that was the most contentious, most pushback that they got on the entire Disneyland Forward project. If they wanted to buy Disneyland Drive, which is a major thoroughfare, I don't think the city of Anaheim is going to go for that. And I also don't think that they really need to. 3 bridges would suffice on getting everybody from the existing parks over to the new theme parks. Way cheaper to build a couple of theme bridges than to buy a major artery from a city. And when I talk about Disney building bridges, I don't mean like the bridge that I'm standing on. I'm talking like the bridge that you see over on downtown Disney, where when you're going over Disneyland Drive, you literally have no idea that you are on a bridge. So whatever Disney would build to take Disneyland and bring it across the street would be fully immersive. You would have no idea that's what you were doing. If I asked you right now, where exactly does the bridge start and stop at downtown Disney, would you even know where that transitional moment is? And how many times did you go across that before you realized that you were on a bridge? So I think when you say bridges, that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a full designed land bridge that will have theming, possibly shops, stores, a restaurant. Like, there could be a lot on that bridge where you don't even realize that you've gone from the old land to the new land. So I don't see that part of it happening as well. But I do think that we are looking at forward theme park activity over here. I just think there's too many complications to make a truly high-level Disney experience for this to be its standalone park. And the fact that they showed us concept art showing it as extensions of Disneyland DCA, but I do believe that they know that it just wouldn't be a total Disney experience with this bizarre sliced up piece of land. Theme park expansion, awesome. Theme park, I don't see it. I don't think so. When Toy Story is a perfectly valuable option. I know this was a little bit of a bizarre, kind of weird video, but I saw so many people putting this question in the comments of the last video. Just want to let you know, I read the comments. I think of the Disneyland Forward series as a way for me to communicate with you, my predictions, my feelings on what's going to happen, and everything that I do predict is me studying the past to better predict Disney's future. So when I saw so many people asking what if this would be its own park, I wanted to do a video breaking down why I think that it won't be. But all of this is to be determined. Nobody knows for sure. Just my best guess says this one is a no. And then also I saw a handful of people talking about them acquiring Disneyland Drive, and I don't think that's going to happen either. But who knows? You could be right and I could be wrong. That's the fun in all of this. That's the fun in this video series. Here's the Disneyland Forward playlist. If there's something that you don't quite understand, chances are I've made a video about it. And as we learn more, I'll keep making more videos about all of these topics as more of this information becomes available to us. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you.